Listen closely, and I will tell you of a city lost to the ages, a place of such wealth and power that it dared to defy God himself. Its name was Ubar, Iram of the Pillars, a nexus of the world's trade routes, a jewel set in the heart of the deepest, most unforgiving desert. And then, one day it was gone. Not ruined, not abandoned, but erased from the face of the earth as if by a divine hand, leaving behind only a whisper in the wind and a riddle carved by the shifting sands. Was it a legend, a cautionary tale spun by Bedouin storytellers around 1,000 campfires? Or was it a historical tragedy, a real place that witnessed a real and terrifying end? This is the mystery we seek to unravel. If you wish to delve deeper into the secrets of the past, consider subscribing to our channel, Historical Truth, where the echoes of lost worlds are brought back to life. Now, let us begin our journey into the great empty silence of the desert. The sun over the Rub al Khali, the empty quarter, does not merely shine, it punishes. It beats upon the endless rolling dunes with a relentless hammering intensity, bleaching color from the world, and leaving only shades of ochre, gold, and bone white. The air shimmers, a liquid distortion over a sea of sand so vast it could swallow nations without a trace. It was here, in this domain of death and dazzling light, that the legend persisted. For centuries, the tales of Ubar were dismissed by scholars in distant rain-damp libraries as mere fantasy, the Atlantis of the sands. But the Bedouin, the true children of the desert, knew differently. Their poems and oral histories spoke of a mighty tribe, the Adites. They were a people of immense stature and strength, blessed with unparalleled prosperity. Their king was Shaddad ibn Ad, a man of such pride that he built a paradise on earth to rival the gardens of paradise promised to the faithful. This was Iram, a city of soaring towers sheathed in silver and gold, its foundations anchored by mighty pillars that reached into the sky. It was a crossroads for the caravans laden with frankincense and myrrh, the priceless resins that perfumed the temples and palaces of the ancient world. The wealth of empires flowed through its gates, but with wealth came arrogance. The Adites turned from the worship of the one God, indulging in every sin and corruption. They believed their city, their walls, their power made them invincible. They mocked the prophets sent to warn them. And so, the stories say, a terrible punishment was devised. God commanded the desert to swallow Ubar whole. The very earth opened beneath its towering pillars, drawing the city, its people, and its wicked splendor down into a bottomless pit. The sands, like a slow, patient tide, swept over the ruins, sealing the tomb for 1,000 years. The city was not just destroyed, it was unmade, its name cursed, its location forgotten, becoming a byword for divine retribution. It was a magnificent story, powerful moral lesson. But was it true? The desert, as we would learn, guards its secrets jealously, and the truth is often stranger and more terrifying than any legend. The first threads of historical reality began to emerge not from the desert sands, but from the clay tablets of ancient Mesopotamia. In the great library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal at Nineveh, archaeologists found cuneiform texts speaking of a fabulously wealthy people called the Ad, living in a land of lofty pillars. Later, the Greek geographer Ptolemy drew a map of Arabia, and upon it, in a region corresponding to the southern edge of the empty quarter, he marked a city named Omanum Emporium. The Romans, in their insatiable quest for trade, wrote of a city that controlled the frankincense trade, a commodity so valuable it was worth its weight in gold. The city was said to be so remote, so protected by the brutal desert, that it was unreachable by any invading army. The most compelling clue, however, came from the Quran itself. In the Surah Al-Fajr, it is written, "Have you not considered how your Lord dealt with Ad, the people of Iram, who had lofty pillars, the like of which were not produced in all the land?" This was not just a folk tale, it was a scripture, a divine testimony to the city's existence and its cataclysmic end. For centuries, these texts were all we had. The desert remained silent, its vastness an impenetrable barrier. The turning point came in the early 20th century with a figure straight out of an adventure novel, Thomas Edward Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia. It was Lawrence, moving with the Arab revolt, who first heard the specific name Ubar from his Bedouin allies. They spoke of it with a mixture of reverence and fear, pointing always into the trackless depths of the empty quarter. Lawrence became obsessed. He saw it as the one archaeological prize worth any risk. He believed the stories, piecing together the trade routes and the geographical clues. He was convinced Ubar was not a myth, but a historical reality, a lost capital waiting to be found. But the Great War and his own tragic destiny intervened. He never mounted an expedition. The dream of finding Ubar, however, did not die with him. It was merely dormant, waiting for the right combination of technology, tenacity, and luck to awaken it once more. The quest was taken up decades later by a man named Nicholas Clapp, a documentary filmmaker armed not with a shovel, but with a new and powerful tool, the eye in the sky. In the 1980s, Clapp, partnering with archaeologist Juris Zarins, embarked on a modern treasure hunt. Their strategy was ingenious. They would use NASA's space shuttle Challenger to take radar images of the suspected region in Oman. The radar could penetrate the dry sand, potentially revealing features hidden from the naked eye. They also pored over old maps, including one drawn by the 2nd century Egyptian geographer Ptolemy. The breakthrough came when they compared the radar images with the ancient maps and the accounts of early explorers. A pattern emerged. The images revealed a web of ancient caravan tracks, like ghostly fingers converging on a single, specific point in the desolate region of Shisr in modern-day Oman. It was a startling revelation. These were not random paths of Bedouin herders. These were the fossilized remains of major trade routes, highways of commerce that had been buried for millennia. All of them led to one place. Guided by these celestial maps, Clapp and Zarins led a ground expedition to Shisr in 1992. What they found was not a glittering metropolis of silver and gold, not at first. It was a bleak, windswept fort perched on the edge of a limestone sinkhole. The local Bedouin knew the site as the Well of the Moon. It was a lonely, desolate place. But as the archaeologists began to dig, the truth started to bleed through the sand. They uncovered the foundations of a large, octagonal fortress. They found towers, walls, and evidence of a significant settlement. They unearthed shards of pottery from Rome, Greece, and Persia, tangible proof that this remote outpost had been a hub of international trade. The dates of the artifacts clustered around the first few centuries AD, with no evidence of habitation beyond the early 6th century. It was as if the settlement had simply stopped. They had found a place that matched the descriptions in time, location, and function. The international press erupted with the announcement. The lost city of Ubar had been found. But had they? The discovery at Shisr was monumental, yet it was also deeply puzzling. This was not the legendary Iram of the Pillars, a city of impossible splendor. This was a practical, fortified caravanserai, a trading post and a well. Where were the soaring towers? Where were the pillars sheathed in precious metal? The archaeologists soon realized they were not looking at a city in the conventional sense, but at something perhaps more fascinating. A crucial node in a vast and sophisticated network. The pillars of Iram, they theorized, were not literal columns of gold, but the great tents of the A-dates, supported by massive central poles that served as trading halls and gathering places in the desert. Or perhaps they were the towering natural rock formations that dotted the landscape. The real story of Ubar began to shift from myth to a grim tale of survival and geological catastrophe. The fortress at Shisr was not built on solid rock, but on the roof of a massive limestone cavern. Beneath it lay a vast subterranean reservoir of water, the lifeblood of the desert. For centuries, the people of Ubar had drawn this water, their wealth and their very existence dependent on this hidden well. But the constant drawing of water, combined with the natural erosion of the limestone, had a devastating, cumulative effect. The cavern's roof was thinning, weakening. Then one day, the earth could bear the weight no longer. The ground gave way. The central part of the fortress, the very heart of the settlement, collapsed catastrophically into the sinkhole. The well that had given them life had become their grave. The event would have been sudden, violent, and absolute. To any survivors or distant observers, it would have seemed as if the city had been swallowed by the earth in a single, wrathful act. This was not a divine punishment from the heavens, but a tragic self-inflicted wound born from the very source of their prosperity. The desert, patient and inexorable, did the rest, pouring sand into the new-made crater, sealing the tomb. The legend of a city struck down by God for its arrogance was born from the raw, terrifying truth of a geological disaster. Let us imagine Ubar in its final days, not as a city of myth, but as a living, breathing community. The air is thick with the sweet, sanctifying smell of frankincense, carried on the constant, gritty wind. Camels, laden with the precious resin known as white gold, grown in vast caravans that stretch to the horizon. Within the walls of the fortress, there is a cacophony of languages: Aramaic, Greek, South Arabian, the tongues of merchants and travelers from the corners of the known world. In the central courtyard, deals are struck that will perfume temples in Jerusalem and palaces in Rome. The people of Ubar are not giants of legend, but they are a hardy, resilient people. Their skin is leathered by the sun and wind, their eyes perpetually squinted against the glare. They are masters of their environment, knowing every hidden water source, every safe path through the dune seas. Their wealth is real, displayed in the fine cloth of their robes, the quality of their weaponry, and the abundance of food and wine on their tables. This prosperity breeds a certain confidence that borders on hubris. They have tamed the untamable desert. They have built their kingdom not on fertile soil, but on trade and sheer human will. They believe themselves invincible. But beneath their feet, unseen and ignored, the foundation of their world is crumbling. Perhaps there were warnings. A slight, almost imperceptible tremor one night, a trickle of dust from a ceiling, a strange echo from the well that seemed deeper than before. Were these signs dismissed as the settling of a busy fortress? Or were they noted with a superstitious dread that was quickly silenced by the demands of commerce and daily life? The leaders, the merchants, the guards, all were likely focused on the tangible threats: rival tribes, bandits, the fluctuating price of frankincense. The real enemy was not outside the walls. It was directly beneath them, a growing void in the earth, silent and patient, waiting for the precise moment when the balance would finally tip. The collapse would not have been a slow subsidence. It was, by all geological accounts, a sudden, catastrophic event. It might have happened at the height of the day's activity, when the central courtyard was packed with merchants, animals, and guards. The first sign would have been a sound, a deep groaning rumble from the very bowels of the earth, a sound so profound it would have been felt in the bones before it was heard by the ears. Then the ground would have shuddered violently. Cracks would have appeared in the hard-packed earth and stone floors, zigzagging like lightning. The great central well, the pride of Ubar and the source of its life, would have been the epicenter of the violence. The limestone ledge surrounding it would have fractured and crumbled. With a roar that drowned out all human screams, a vast section of the fortress, the towers, the walls, the market stalls, the people, would have plummeted downward into the newly expanded cavern below. A great cloud of dust and pulverized limestone would have billowed into the sky, a dirty brown plume, visible for miles, blotting out the fierce sun. For those on the periphery, it would have been a scene from a nightmare. The heart of their world simply vanished in a matter of seconds, replaced by a gaping, ragged hole in the ground. The sounds of collapse would have been replaced by an eerie, ringing silence, then by the panicked screams of the survivors and the frantic bellows of dying animals. The ground around the new sinkhole would have been unstable, threatening to give way and claim more victims. The disaster was total, instantaneous, and incomprehensible. In a single violent moment, the nerve center of the frankincense trade in southern Arabia was obliterated. The survivors, those who were in the outer courtyards or the satellite camps, would have been faced with a horrifying sight: their home, their wealth, their families, all gone, swallowed by the earth. In the aftermath, the survivors would have been few, scattered, and traumatized. What does a culture do when its physical and spiritual center vanishes overnight? They would have gathered what little they could salvage: a few camels, some water skins, tools, and fled from the accursed site. The story of the catastrophe would have traveled with them, changing and evolving, with each telling along the caravan routes. The tale of a simple geological collapse was not enough to explain such a monumental tragedy. The human mind seeks meaning, especially in the face of senseless disaster. The wealth of Ubar, its arrogance, its turning away from the old gods, these elements, long a part of the local cultural fabric, were woven into the event to give it meaning. The collapse was not a random act of nature. It was a divine judgment. The god of the desert had grown weary of their pride, and had opened the earth to punish them. The story was a powerful moralizing tool. It served as a warning to other wealthy, powerful cities. No one is beyond the reach of divine retribution. The legend of Ubar was, in fact, a form of historical processing, a way for a shattered people to make sense of the incomprehensible. Over the generations, the precise location faded from memory, guarded by the shifting dunes of the empty quarter. The city passed from history into myth. The name Ubar, or Iram, became a symbol, a metaphor for the transience of human ambition in the face of nature and time. It was a story told to children, a parable preached by holy men. The real, gritty historical truth of a trading post that collapsed into a sinkhole was polished smooth by time, becoming the glittering, doomed Atlantis of the sands. The tragedy was complete. The city was not only physically destroyed, but also transformed, its reality subsumed by a far more powerful and enduring narrative. The discovery at Shisr did not end the mystery of Ubar. It simply reframed it. The debate among scholars continues to this day. The team that found the site, led by Juris Zarins, is confident. They point to the caravan routes, the dating of the artifacts, the evidence of a catastrophic collapse into a sinkhole, and the correlation with historical accounts. For them, Shisr is Ubar, but skeptics remain. Some archaeologists argue that Shisr was merely a remote outpost of the larger, still-lost kingdom of Ubar. They contend that the real metropolis, the true city of the pillars, lies still buried beneath the sands, waiting for another clue, another technological leap to reveal it. The fortress at Shisr, they say, was just a single spoke on a great wheel, a vital way station, but not the glorious hub described in the legends. This ongoing debate is the very lifeblood of archaeology and historical mystery. It is a reminder that the past is not a closed book, but a palimpsest, a parchment that has been written on, scraped clean, and written on again. The story of Ubar exists in two parallel dimensions: the dimension of factual archaeological evidence, the pottery, the foundations, the sinkhole, and the dimension of myth, scripture, and human storytelling. Which one is the true Ubar? Is the legend any less real because it is not factually precise? The legend of Iram of the Pillars has shaped culture, inspired explorers, and provided a profound moral lesson for millennia. In many ways, its power and influence are far greater than that of a simple, dusty caravanserai in Oman. So, what are we to make of the lost city of Ubar? The evidence strongly suggests that the legend is rooted in a historical tragedy. A prosperous, arrogant trading center did indeed meet a sudden and catastrophic end, swallowed by the desert. The geological explanation provides a clear, scientific rationale for the city's disappearance. Yet, the mythic elements, the defiance of God, the towering pillars, the utter annihilation as punishment, are not mere embellishments. They are the cultural and psychological interpretation of that event. They are the meaning imposed upon the meaningless violence of nature. The story of Ubar is a powerful fusion of history and myth. It shows us how our ancestors grappled with disaster, how they used narrative to impose order on chaos. The city's fate serves as an eternal warning about the dangers of hubris and the fragility of human civilization in the face of the natural world. Our cities of glass and steel may seem permanent, but Ubar teaches us that the foundations of even the greatest empires can be shockingly fragile. The desert has given up one of its greatest secrets, but it has not given up all of them. The sands of the empty quarter are vast, and who is to say what other lost cities, what other forgotten tragedies, still lie buried beneath those silent, shifting waves? The story of Ubar is a testament to the enduring human desire to seek, to explore, and to understand the echoes of our own past. The search for truth, like the desert itself, is never truly over. This has been the story of the lost city of Ubar, Iram of the Pillars. If you enjoyed this journey into the depths of history and legend, there are countless more mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe to our channel, Historical Truth, to ensure you don't miss the next tale from the shadows of time. Thank you for listening.